Hi everyone, this is Mrs. J, and today we're going to learn how to find the surface area and volume of a cylinder. So a cylinder is a solid whose bases are congruent circles, so a figure such as this. So to find the surface area of a cylinder, it's the same as finding the surface area of a prism, which we previously learned. All you have to do is find the lateral area, and then you add it to twice the area of the base, because the surface area is the area of everything on the outside of your three-dimensional figure. So for this case, the way you find the surface or the lateral area, remember, it's the perimeter of your base times the height. Since your base is a circle, the perimeter of your base, notice, is 2 pi r. Remember, 2 pi r is the circumference of a circle. So that's just the perimeter of the base times the height. So this is exactly the same as the surface area of a prism. And then we do twice the area of the base. And you'll see here we have pi r squared because our base is a circle. So here's the more streamlined version or formula for the surface area of a cylinder. For the volume of a cylinder, again, it's the same as finding the volume of a prism. It's the area of the base times the height. And again, here we have that pi r squared because our base is a circle, and that's how you find the area of a circle. So there are two types of cylinders we'll be working with. One is called a right cylinder, and that has bases that are perpendicular to its center axis. So it's a perfectly vertical or horizontal or along whatever axis this is laying. The second type of cylinder is called an oblique cylinder, and it's a cylinder whose axis is not perpendicular to the bases. So the two bases here are parallel, but this line, the center axis, is not perpendicular. So when we're doing this, it's important to note that our height is always going to be a perpendicular height. It is not this distance along the center axis. Okay, let's move down to example 1, and let's see if we can find the surface area of this cylinder. So again, remember the way we find the surface area of a cylinder is we find the lateral area, which is going to be 2 pi r, which is essentially the circumference or the perimeter of your base times the height, plus 2 times pi r squared, twice the area of your base, because there are two bases. So here we can see that we have a radius of 14 and we have a height of 18. So we should have everything we need to find the surface area. So we do 2 times pi times the radius times the height plus 2 times pi times your radius squared. And so here we can use our scientific calculator, and you can use the pi button on your calculator, and we'll get a decimal approximation, and you should get approximately 2,814.9 if we round to the nearest tenth, and then we'll say feet squared, because remember, area is always units squared. Okay, let's try this next example together. So here we're going to be finding the volume of these different cylinders. So remember, volume is going to be the area of our base times the height. For a cylinder, that becomes pi r squared, which is the area of a circle, which is our base, and then times the height. So here in example A, we can see that we have a radius of 1.8, and we also have a height of 1.8. So we can find the volume. So our volume, again, pi times 1.8 squared times 1.8. And let's use our calculator again, and let's use that pi button on your scientific calculator. And you should get approximately 18.3 centimeters cubed. Remember, for volume, it's always going to be units cubed. Okay, and let's look at the second example. So here we are given the height, which we need, but you'll notice that we are missing the radius. But here we are given this diagonal, which goes from one base to the other. So if we look at this, we can actually turn it into a right triangle, which would give us a side length right here that is a diameter. And if we can find this diameter, then we can cut it in half to find the radius. So I'm going to label this D for diameter. And here, since it is a right triangle, we can use the Pythagorean theorem. So D squared plus 15 squared equals 17 squared. D is going to be the square root of 17 squared minus 15 squared. So I subtracted 15 squared, and then you take the square root of both sides. So here we get a diameter of exactly 8. So if our diameter is 8, then that means that our radius is exactly half of that, which is 4. So now that we know that the radius is 4 and our height is 15, we can use our volume formula. So pi times r squared times h, which is 15. And again, let's use that pi button in our calculator, and let's get a decimal approximation. You should get approximately 754.0 if you round to the nearest tenths correctly, and then that's going to be feet cubed because it is volume. Okay, and let's look down here at this last example. So here you can see that we have an oblique cylinder. It says the height of the oblique cylinder is 3 times that of the radius. What is the volume of this cylinder? So again, this height that we're looking for needs to be this perpendicular height. So it will be this height. So we do know that the height is 3 times the radius. However, we're not told the radius. We are told that the base has an area of 81 pi centimeters squared. So remember, area equals pi r squared for a circle. Let's substitute what we know the area to be. 81 pi equals pi r squared. And now we can actually use this. We're going to work our way backwards to solve for r. So first thing you can do is we can divide both sides by pi. It essentially cancels them out. And then here we're just going to take the square root of both sides. We'll just take the positive square root because, of course, a radius can't be negative, and the square root of 81 is 9. So the radius is 9, and then we know that the height is 3 times the radius, so that means that our height is 27. So now we have the two pieces of information we need to find the volume. So remember, volume is pi times the radius squared times the height. Let's get a decimal approximation with our scientific calculator using the pi button. And we should get approximately 6,870.7, and then centimeters cubed for volume. Okay, that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching.